Welcome to Power in Words, a sanctuary for the weary spirit and a lighthouse for those navigating the stormy seas of life. Here we believe that language is not merely a tool for communication, but a vessel for healing, a spark for transformation, and a bridge that connects the isolated islands of our individual experiences. Today, we invite you to slow down, to breathe deeply, and to immerse yourself in a profound truth that has the potential to reshape the very architecture of your existence. We are here to explore a sentiment that transcends time, a wisdom born from the deepest silence and the darkest night to illuminate the human condition. It is a guiding star bequeathed to us by the indomitable Helen Keller, who whispered to history, "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much." In the vast, sprawling narrative of human history, there is a pervasive myth that has taken root in our modern consciousness. It is the myth of the solitary hero, the self-made giant, the lone wolf who conquers the mountain through sheer force of will and individual grit. From the tender innocence of childhood, we are often taught that strength is synonymous with independence. We are conditioned to believe that asking for help is a fracture in our armor, a sign of weakness, or an admission of defeat. We carry our burdens in silence, locking our struggles behind the closed doors of our hearts, convinced that if we just push a little harder, run a little faster, and endure a little longer on our own, we will reach the summit of fulfillment. Yet, if we pause and listen to the quiet hum of the universe, we realize that this isolation is not strength. It is a slow and silent suffocation of the soul. To truly understand the weight and the glory of Helen Keller's words, we must first descend into the reality of her world before she found the bridge to humanity. Imagine, if you will, a world devoid of light and sound. Imagine an existence where the sun is felt but never seen, where the voice of a mother is a vibration but never a melody. For the young Helen, the world was a chaotic, terrifying void. She was locked within the fortress of her own body, a prisoner of silence and darkness. In that state of absolute solitude, her potential was stifled, her brilliance dormant, and her spirit raging against the confines of a sensory prison. Alone, she was a ship adrift in a fog so thick that no lighthouse could pierce it. Alone, she could do so little, not because she lacked intelligence or desire, but because the human spirit requires a conduit, a connection, to flow into the world. Then consider the arrival of Anne Sullivan. This was not merely the arrival of a teacher, it was the arrival of the other. It was the introduction of the collective human experience into the vacuum of isolation. When Anne held Helen's hand under the water pump and spelled the word W-A-T ear into her palm, a universe was born. That moment was not a singular achievement of Helen's intellect. It was a symphony of collaboration. It was the precise intersection where one soul reached out to another, and in that touch, the impossible became possible. The darkness did not vanish, but it was no longer empty. The silence did not break, but it began to speak. This historic union illustrates the fundamental psychological truth of our existence. We are not designed to function as closed systems. We are biological, spiritual, and emotional creatures woven to be interdependent. When we analyze the psychology of isolation, we find that the human mind, when left entirely to its own devices, often turns upon itself. We are our own harshest critics, trapped in echo chambers of doubt and fear. When we try to carry the weight of the world alone, our perspective narrows. We see only the obstacles immediately in front of us. We feel only the heaviness of the immediate moment. We become like a single thread trying to hold up a heavy tapestry. Eventually, under the strain, we fray and snap. But Helen Keller calls us to look at the tapestry itself. She invites us to see that when threads are woven together, they do not just sit side by side. They reinforce one another. They share the tension. They distribute the weight. A tapestry can endure centuries of wear, not because each thread is invincible, but because they are intertwined. Think of the majestic redwoods in California. These giants can grow over 300 feet tall, weathering fierce storms and shifting soils. One might assume that such massive trees require roots that go incredibly deep, anchoring them individually into the bedrock. However, nature tells a different story. The roots of the redwood tree are actually quite shallow, but they spread outward, interlocking with the roots of the trees around them. Under the earth, in the darkness where no one sees, they are holding hands. They form a subterranean network of support, so that when the winds howl and the storms rage, no single tree stands alone. They stand because they stand together. If one tree were to be isolated, it would easily topple. But bound together, they are a forest, an unshakable entity. This is the wisdom of nature, and it is the wisdom we must reclaim for our own lives. Why, then, is it so difficult for us to reach out? Why do we persist in the little when the so much is within our grasp? The barrier is often our ego, the fragile construct that fears vulnerability. We are terrified that if we admit we cannot do it alone, we will be seen as insufficient. We fear that our needs will burden others. But let us shift this perspective. When you ask for help or when you offer your hand to collaborate, you are not creating a burden. You are creating an opportunity for connection. You are allowing someone else the gift of being useful, the gift of being kind, the gift of mattering. Vulnerability is the glue of emotional connection. It is the brave admission that I am human and I need you. In that admission, the walls of separation crumble, and the vast potential of together begins to flood in. Together we can do so much. Let us meditate on the magnitude of so much. This is not just about productivity or efficiency. It is about the alchemy of the human spirit. When minds come together, ideas that were once fragments become whole. When hearts come together, sorrow that was once unbearable becomes manageable, and joy that was once fleeting becomes celebratory. Consider the monumental feats of our civilization. No single person built the pyramids or mapped the human genome or composed a symphony that brings an audience to tears. These are the fruits of collective dreaming. Even the artist, secluded in a studio, is painting with brushes made by another, using techniques passed down through generations, inspired by a world they share with billions. There is no such thing as a truly solitary creation. We are all standing on the shoulders of giants, adding our verse to a song that started long before we were born and will continue long after we are gone. On a more intimate level, let us look at the battles we fight in the quiet corners of our daily lives. Perhaps you are facing a struggle with grief or addiction, or a crushing failure that has left you feeling worthless. In the darkness of that solitary confinement, the monsters of the mind seem 10 feet tall. You feel small. You feel powerless. The phrase, "alone we can do so little," feels less like a quote and more like a verdict. But the moment you speak your pain to a trusted friend, the moment you walk into a support group, the moment you let someone else hold the lantern while you find your footing, the dynamic shifts. You are no longer one person against the darkness. You are an army of 2 or 3 or 10. The monsters shrink. The path clears. The shared strength gives you a courage you could never manufacture in a vacuum. Empathy is the antidote that only community can provide. There is a profound beauty in the way our differences become our greatest assets when we unite. If we were all identical, with the same strengths and the same weaknesses, our collaboration would be merely addition. But because we are different, because we bring varied experiences, talents, and perspectives, our collaboration becomes multiplication. It becomes synergy. One person brings the vision, another brings the logic. One brings the passion, another brings the patience. Like the disparate instruments in an orchestra, the booming drum, the weeping cello, the soaring flute, we are distinct. Alone, the drum is just a rhythm, and the flute is just a melody. But together, under the conductor's baton of shared purpose, we become a symphony. We create a sound that is richer, deeper, and more transcendent than any solo performance could ever hope to achieve. Helen Keller's life was a testament to the fact that physical limitations are not the ultimate boundary. The ultimate boundary is the refusal to connect. She went on to become an author, a political activist, and a lecturer influencing millions of lives. Do you think she could have achieved a fraction of this had she remained isolated in her silent tower? Her legacy is a monument to the power of partnership. It challenges us to look at our own lives and ask, where am I trying to be a hero in a story that requires a team? Where am I accepting the little because I am too proud to reach for the so much? We must also acknowledge that together requires work. It requires patience, forgiveness, and the quieting of the ego. It is messy. People will disappoint us. We will disappoint them. The roots of the redwoods surely tangle and knot. But the alternative, the pristine, untouched silence of isolation, is a graveyard for potential. To live fully is to engage in the messy, beautiful, chaotic dance of relationship. It is to recognize that my well-being is intrinsically tied to yours. If you fall, a part of me falls. If you rise, a part of me soars. This concept of Ubuntu, often translated as I am because we are, echoes the sentiment of Keller. It reminds us that our humanity is not a solitary possession, but a shared essence. Let us bring this wisdom into the practical hours of our days. Look around you. Look at your family, your colleagues, your neighbors, and even the strangers you pass on the street. Each of them carries a universe within them. Each of them holds a piece of the puzzle that you might be missing. When we choose to collaborate rather than compete, we unlock a reservoir of energy that drives innovation and fosters peace. Imagine a world where we prioritize the together over the alone. Imagine a society where success was measured not by how much one individual accumulated, but by how much the community thrived. It starts with a shift in mindset. It starts with the courage to say, I need help, and the grace to say, I am here for you. As we navigate a world that is increasingly digitized, yet paradoxically disconnected, the danger of emotional isolation is at an all-time high. We have thousands of connections, but few true companions. We scroll through the highlights of others' lives while sitting alone in our shadows. We must break this cycle. We must return to the primal, ancient truth that we belong to one another. We must cultivate deep, meaningful relationships that go beyond the surface. We need to build villages, not just of physical proximity, but of emotional resonance. We need to be the Anne Sullivan to someone else's Helen Keller. The hand that reaches into the dark, the voice that spells out hope, the presence that says you are not alone. Let this message be a call to action for your heart. If you are feeling the crushing weight of solitude, reach out. It is not an act of surrender. It is an act of strategy and strength. And if you are feeling strong, look for those who are struggling under the weight of the little. Lend your strength. Bridge the gap. Be the connector. In doing so, you participate in the divine economy of love where giving does not deplete you, but rather multiplies your own sense of purpose and joy. Life is too vast, too complex, and too beautiful to be experienced in a silo. The sunsets are more vibrant when watched with a friend. The victories are sweeter when celebrated with a team. The sorrows are lighter when wept on a shoulder. We are the authors of our stories, yes, but the best stories are those with a cast of characters who challenge, support, and love the protagonist. Do not write yourself into a monologue. Write a dialogue. Write an epic of brotherhood and sisterhood. Write a story where the I is humble enough to become the we. As we draw this reflection to a close, let the words of Helen Keller echo once more, not just in your ears, but in the marrow of your bones. Alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much. Let this be the mantra that guides your morning and comforts your night. Let it be the blueprint upon which you build your dreams. You were not made to wither in the shade of isolation. You were made to bloom in the garden of community. The potential for so much is waiting for you, hovering just beyond the fingertips of your outstretched hand. Reach out, connect, unite, and watch as the little transforms into the magnificent, as the quiet struggle transforms into a thunderous victory, and as the solitary soul finds its home in the great, beating heart of humanity. Be the bridge, be the hand, be the togetherness that changes the world. Alone, we are but a single drop, fragile and evaporating under the sun. Together, we are an ocean, vast, deep, and powerful enough to reshape the shores of destiny. Thank you for journeying with us today through these thoughts. If this message resonated with your spirit and you wish to continue exploring the depth of human potential and the beauty of shared wisdom, we warmly invite you to like this video and subscribe to the Power in Words channel. Join our community and let us walk this path of inspiration and positive energy together, turning the little into so much, one word at a time.